You want the moon? Just say the word and I'll throw a lasso around it and pull it down.
Look at the stars. The great kings of the past look down on us from those stars. So whenever you feel alone, just remember that those kings will always be there to guide you.
I don't think it is very useful to speculate on what God might or might not be able to do. Rather, we should examine what he actually does with the universe we live in.
We are all explorers, driven to know what's over the horizon. The most profound discoveries are not necessarily beyond that next star. They're within us, woven into the threads that bind us.
Hello, everyone. Happy Friday, and welcome to our special guest today, Nina Kahn of Valley Girl Mystic.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Olivia. I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited to talk about the Libra full moon this Saturday with you because you are a Libra sun, right?
That's correct. I am a Libra sun and a Libra Mercury. So this is a full moon that is close to my heart, indeed.
I have Mercury in Libra too. I have a stellium in Libra, actually. So
love it. Oh, I don't even know what your sun sign is. We're gonna have to swap.
Yes, I'm a Virgo, for those of you who don't know. But learning that I had a Libra stellium was pretty enlightening because it really helped me lean into that Libra energy. And I also love, I bring a different astrologer on every full moon. I love chatting about the full moon, getting other people's perspective. And I try to find astrologers that kind of align with the energy. I didn't know you were a Libra, but just looking at your Instagram page, I was like, this is Libra vibes.
Oh, that is so funny. I take that as a compliment. I actually love being a Libra, and that's actually what kind of got me into astrology in the first place. Was when I was a kid, I would read about like the Libra archetype and like the Libra horoscopes, and I always felt like, oh my God, this is so me. Like, I'm such a Libra. This is astrology must be real because I am such a Libra. And I know not everybody identifies with their sun sign so much, but I always just felt like the positives, the negatives, I identified with all of it. So I was sold from the start as a Libra.
I felt that way about being a Virgo too, but I'm also a Virgo rising, and I learned later, like, oh, that's why every horoscope just aligns with me perfectly, because a lot of times they're written based on our rising signs.
That makes sense.
But isn't that funny how we all get into astrology? It's like we read one thing and we're like, that's me. And then it just unlocks a whole potential of things to learn about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in this episode of Transits today, we're going to walk you through the weekend ahead. We'll talk about the transits leading up to the full moon today, Friday. We'll talk about Saturday, all the energy surrounding this full moon. And then we have some major shifts happening and connections happening on Sunday as well with Mercury. So we'll touch on that too. And we'll go through what this full moon means for your rising sign as well. We'll do a quick little horoscope for each sign. So hang tight with us whenever you're finding this video. If you're here with us live, feel free to ask your questions. If you find it later, I'll add chapters to the timeline and in the description below, so you can just jump to whatever you want to learn about whenever you're finding this video. But I think a great place to start. Hey, Kayla, she's also a Libra sun, very excited for the full moon. Susan also says Libra power. We've got some Libras in the house.
Libra power indeed. I love it. All of this Libra energy for the Libra moon.
So let's talk about Libra energy. And I find too, like, the last full moon was in Virgo, and being a Virgo rising, I was like, this is my moment, like this is my time. I think when the full moon is in our sign, or a sign we have a lot of placements in, we can get especially excited about it because it feels aligned for us. Like we can really feel in our own energy. But I want you to talk about Libra energy, being a Libra, kind of describe it to those of us who aren't familiar or aren't exactly comfortable in Libra energy.
Okay. So Libra is the cardinal air sign of the zodiac. So as you probably know, air signs are very social, they're very conceptual and mental minded. And, it's funny because Libra energy kind of, I think, gets this reputation for being maybe a little bit shallow, maybe a little bit flaky. But what's interesting, and being indecisive, right? That's like a very stereotypical Libra
Yeah.
quality, is being indecisive. But really, it's because Libras are constantly weighing the pros and cons of things. Libra is represented by the symbol of the scales. That's their symbol. And what's interesting is that I believe they're the only symbol in the zodiac that is not represented by a living thing and is
Oh,
rather
yeah.
symbolized by this object, this symbolic object. So, there's this element of like constantly thinking about things to Libra energy, about seeing all sides of things. It's very much, it's always holding up that scale and weighing different perspectives, weighing different sides of things. And so that indecisiveness we stereotype Libras with is actually simply them thinking through multiple options and really being able to see the pros and cons of each option in a very genuine and objective way. So when you really step back and do that, sometimes it can be hard to make a final decision, because I think there's this vibe with Libra energy that, justice is important. So making the right choice is very, very important when it comes to Libra vibes. And I think that's something that, astrology memes can sometimes overlook, is this very justice oriented energy that comes with Libra. Libra energy wants things to be fair and balanced and in harmony. So from there, it's
Yes.
kind of like, oh, and do you want to add? Do you want to add to that? Because I'm a Libra, so I feel like it's nice to have perspective from somebody whose sun is not in the same sign.
Well, I think perspective is a great word to use when we're talking about Libra energy. And, Libra also rules our relationships, love. It's ruled by Venus, beauty. So there's a reason, Kim Kardashian is a great example of a Libra because just on like a surface level. Okay, I don't know Kim Kardashian's real life or anything,
Sure.
but she's all about the aesthetic, right? She's very particular about like making sure things look beautiful. And that's kind of where the astrology memes come into play of like, oh yeah, Libra's all about the beauty and they can't make decisions. But I think perspective is a great keyword to use because I think Libras do best when they are bouncing off of someone else. That's why they rule relationships. And often, I think what we'll see with this full moon is that we can process our emotions through conversations with other people, through relating to other people. And I think that's when Libras really thrive, when they have people they trust that they can just like bounce their ideas off of or bounce their thoughts off of. I've noticed that with myself and leaning into my own Libra energy. And something I have come to realize really over the past year or two in working with my own Libra placements more. I have Mercury, Mars, and Jupiter in Libra.
Oh, wow.
One of my like gurus and mentors, she's a Libra sun. And, she can be a little bit like floaty and, in other little realms and just very airy, but she's a really beautiful example of a Libra leader. And I don't think Libras get enough credit for the fact that they are a cardinal sign. Cardinal signs are meant to be initiators and leaders. But the beautiful thing I see with Libras as leaders is that they're gentle leaders. They're not the people who are going to come out strong and like, I'm here, They have this really gentle way of leading and just kind of being balanced and bringing other people into balance around them too. So I think that's where like the balance and harmony aspect of Libra comes in. Once they're balanced, they can like influence other people in a really beautiful way.
I totally agree. And I think what you said about partnerships is so important, because I do agree that Libra energy really comes alive in a partnership when they're able to collaborate and cooperate and commit to somebody. And, from there, they get to use their beautiful gift of creating balance and harmony with the dynamics with other people. And that's that, social energy. That's that cardinal energy too. Like, they're able to initiate these really important social connections and bonds and relationships really well. They're able to sort of like bring all of that magic together and make it happen. So,
I agree,
so
yeah.
yeah, I think also with, if we want to kind of bring Aries energy into this, since that is their opposite sign in the zodiac, it's kind of fun
And
to
we're
look at
definitely
that
like
lens too.
feeling the Aries energy right now. We're in Aries
I
season.
mean,
Yeah.
Aries season is upon us. So, yeah, so that's a big part of this full moon as well, is sort of this dynamic between Aries being, this is the self. This is, we are motivated by what we want and what we need and what we're after. And Libra energy is very much about the other and about working together and about creating partnership. And, there's the kind of the stereotype with Libras of being very diplomatic and kind of polite and like always wanting to accommodate other people. So it's funny to have, we've got the self and then we've got the focus on the other. And so that really comes together with the sun in Aries and the moon in Libra this weekend.
Yes, the me versus we dynamic. Court says we are
Definitely.
both exuding the Libra energy and she's here for it.
Thank you.
And Kayla says the struggle of trying to make everyone comfortable before myself definitely can be a pitfall of being a Libra or having a lot of Libra placements, is always being aware of like other people and making sure they're comfortable. And, just speaking from my own experience, having a lot of Libra in my chart, we can fall into codependency really easily because we want to relate to other people. We want that loving connection with other people. So that's something to keep in mind, especially when we have a full moon in a sign. It can kind of heighten the effects, right, of that energy. So I think a lot of us are going to be really, I'm already seeing this play out in my life, like focusing on like, what do I want and how do I make sure I'm also making space for my partner's needs or my friend's needs, or, just any sort of partnership you're in. It doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. But yeah, I see that playing out for sure.
Definitely.
For a lot of people.
And also kind of focusing on like, we need to take care of ourselves and prioritize our own needs in order to truly show up in relationships and really bring balance to a relationship. So I think that's a good thing to think about if you're sort of lost in the Libra sauce, that like, we can kind of balance it out with that Aries energy of like, it's okay to put yourself first and it's okay to prioritize your own needs, because that's actually how relationships are able to thrive, is when we are not just doing this people pleasing, right? That's actually, that backfires in relationships and that creates an imbalance. So yeah, balance, focusing on that Libra balance is always helpful.
Kayla also says Libras are the glue that hold this world together. And I just think that's so beautiful. And
really
Bree
sweet.
says, Libra rising in my first house, feeling this energy. Definitely going to be a great full moon for you. And we'll talk about that
full
in
moon
just
for
a minute.
you.
Love a full moon in the first house. I just had that last month and it's the best vibe.
Nice.
It really is.
It is. I feel like you really feel it. Sometimes full moons go by and it's like, oh, that didn't have this huge impact on me. But when it's in your first house, I feel like everybody feels it in a really significant way. It's like it's there. It's showing up.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And she also says it's like the airplane crash theory. You got to put your mask on first to take care of the person next to you. A really great
100%. Great advice for Libra energy.
Yeah. Make sure you're taking care of yourself before you try to take care of everybody else. So let's talk about the energy today, kind of leading up to this Libra moon. I'll pull up the chart here, but the moon is not really making a whole lot of prominent connections today. It's forming a lot of quincunxes or inconjunct angles, awkward angles to different planets. So the moon is already in Libra right now. We're already embracing the Libra moon vibes. And you might kind of be feeling like you're coming back into a state of balance or trying to like recalibrate coming off of the Virgo moon. I think especially with everything that's been going on with the Jupiter Neptune conjunction, we've had a lot of activity happening. And the Virgo moon the past couple of days might have had your head kind of spinning, trying to process it all, organize it all, analyze it all. Now with the Libra moon, it's kind of returning back to like, okay, how can we find balance in the middle of all of this, especially with all the Pisces energy? We can kind of be floating off and, flying away to another realm. So what do you notice when the moon is in Libra in general? Because I think often when we identify with a sign, we're like more aligned to that energy whenever a planet is in that sign.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, I think in a general way, when the moon is in Libra, I really notice that it's a time when we are seeking emotional connection with other people. Just because Libra energy is very partnerships oriented and it wants to connect.
Yeah.
So, because the moon symbolizes our emotions and our feelings and our inner selves, it really kind of, I think, it helps those emotions sort of bubble up and out, maybe even in a little bit of a lighter way. I feel like the moon in Libra tends to not feel super heavy. Obviously after that it goes into Scorpio and then we sort of dive into the depths of our feelings. But in Libra, it feels like a bubbly, kind of light and fun time to emotionally connect with other people and share your feelings, talk about how you're feeling, really kind of like open up to people in a lighthearted and pleasant way, because emotions don't always have to be heavy.
And I think we're all, when the moon is in Libra, craving like emotional balance and diplomacy and friendliness. So processing emotions, like you said, can feel a little bit lighter because we're like, okay, we all just want to get along here. Like we can put things out there, we can say what we need to say, but everybody, hopefully, depending on if the person across from you has anything major playing out in their chart, hopefully everybody's on the same page of wanting to come together and find common ground with the moon in Libra. So the moon's it made an awkward angle and a quincunx, an inconjunct angle, same thing, to Mercury overnight and then to Venus early this morning, which is interesting because Venus rules Libra. But when we have this imbalanced angle here, it's like the moon in Libra doesn't have any common ground with Mercury over here in Taurus and Venus in Pisces. They have nothing in common. They're not in any signs that have the same energy. So I see that as like really today in general leading up to the full moon. I really feel like it's going to be kind of uncomfortable. It's like, where do we go from here? We're having a hard time kind of like aligning with the direction we're going or trying to decide even like what it is that we truly want. I really feel like today is kind of this in-between day. And especially this morning, if you found yourself like not fully able to lean into that loving Libra Venus energy or not fully able to be affectionate, we can probably blame this awkwardness with Venus playing out right now.
Yeah, it's just it might just be a little bit harder to channel our Venus-y selves with this angle. And then we've got, I believe the moon is opposing Chiron.
Yes.
Pretty soon here in the next
1 p.m.,
hours.
I think.
Yeah, so that's active right now too. And I think that can make us feel sensitive on top of the fact that we're approaching a full moon, which can already heighten our emotions. I think when we've got Chiron, the wounded healer archetype, right, it can sort of bring these sensitivities up to the surface, especially with the moon, an emotional planet like the moon facing off with Chiron.
Oh, yeah. Well, and keep in mind, so this full moon, it technically becomes full tomorrow, but we're feeling the energy of the full moon now. This full moon is opposing Chiron. Remember, the day before the new moon, the moon met up with Chiron in Aries. So it's like whatever was happening around the new moon often comes to culmination at the full moon. Whatever was triggered with the moon in Aries and Chiron in Aries under the new moon might be coming to completion or being realized today or tomorrow with the moon opposing Chiron. And I see oppositions like you're facing off against something or you're coming face to face with something. Like it can be that like, oh, this is the missing piece. We're finally integrating it. We see it fully. Or it can be like, nope, we need to stay as far away from that as possible. So, it can depend on where you are in your own healing journey. Chiron having a lot to do with healing. But just know that if there's something you've been working through during Aries season with Chiron being in Aries, there could be like this pinnacle moment or this realization or culmination of it under this full moon. And it doesn't have to be bad. It can just be kind of intense.
Yeah. I mean, full moons are an opposition between the sun and the moon. So that you can kind of apply that to other planets too. There's this element of illumination that's happening in perspective, like you said, like it's face to face. when two planets oppose each other, you know, they've got the most space from each other they can possibly have in the zodiac. So it gives us a lot of room to see what the heck is actually going on between those two planets. And it sort of puts everything on the table. Like, we can see the issues. It's like, okay, we've got space between us. We can see everything between us right now, everything that's going on. So that can be challenging, but it can also be, you know, illuminating, and we can work with that just the way we work with full moon energy, you know? So I think I like your delineation of that, because I think it can be a useful thing too.
Well, and I think it's really going to bring out that whole like me versus we that we were just talking about, because with Chiron and Aries in general over the past, you know, several months, even years, however long Chiron's been in Aries, it feels like a lifetime now.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, it's been a lot about our inner child wounds, our own wounds, the wounds to ourself, you know, because Aries rules the self. And with the moon in Libra, we want to relate to other people. We want to better our relationships and find balance in those relationships. So that could be playing out too. Like, you're dealing with your own wounds. You're trying to process these things that have been triggered during Aries season. And at the same time, like, how do you not... With Libra energy, it's really easy to bounce things off of other people. So like, how do you not put that on someone else? How do you like own that and hold that without trying to be a little bit codependent and having someone else come in and fix it or make it feel better, you know?
Yeah.
And that's something, like, I will be totally honest, that's been playing out in my own relationship, you know, definitely this like back and forth of like self versus other, and working through our own individual healing, but also wanting to be there for each other. So I see relationships in general, not just romantic relationships, like I said, but any sort of like one-on-one relationship that has been getting a lot of attention in your life. There could be some activation in that under the Libra full moon.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's when we're really working on ourselves and we're working on these sensitive spots, these trigger spots in ourselves, we do have to strike a balance in the way that we relate to others during these periods of growth and healing, because, you know, we don't want to be dumping. We don't want to be emotionally dumping or taking out our own triggers on other people. And at the same time, we don't want to just isolate and totally get lost in our own healing in that sense. Like, we need that Libran connection. So it's really, I think, trying to strike a balance between like, I do need to like address this healing that needs to be done within myself. And I also want to relate to others in a way that feels balanced and supportive.
Totally. And then also the final connection the moon makes today is another uncomfortable angle to Uranus. So kind of like what we talked about earlier, but I see this will be in a couple hours, but you can see over here in Taurus, it's not quite an opposition. It's one sign off. I feel like a lot of people have been talking about like, okay, we are feeling like a change is coming. Like, there's a shift coming, something's coming. And it might feel like today, again, we're kind of in this in between of like being unsure of what's next, how to move forward. Under this full moon, like, we all just want to lean into the feel good vibes, but we kind of know there's something playing out in the background, whether that's the Jupiter Neptune conjunction, which is bringing a really beautiful energy, but also heightening our sensitivities. So we're all feeling a little bit more just like touchy, maybe touched, like sensitive in a good way, but also we could be a little bit like overly sensitive, you know, in Pisces. So just, I feel like if you feel in between right now, like if you're kind of like, what's going on? I'm a little lost. That's kind of par for the course today.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, we are in between, like, you know, it's funny because this full moon in Libra is hitting right in the middle of the month. And we've got this month of April, which is bookended by 2 new moons. And so, and the next, you know, we're about to enter eclipse season. This is our last big lunation before eclipse season starts. And what's interesting is that I believe the new moon in Taurus, the solar eclipse in Taurus that's coming up, is going to be in a super tight conjunction with Uranus. So it's kind of funny that today we've got this sort of uncomfortable aspect with Uranus. We can't quite align and make sense of the synergy between these two planets' energies. But it's almost like a little, like what's coming up is this powerful eclipse that's going to be conjunct Uranus in 2 weeks. So so I think there's a little bit of this element of like, okay, this is our big full moon before eclipse season hits again, and we're back in that eclipse tunnel of intensity and chaos sometimes.
Totally. And I mean, Aries season has felt really busy, not just because it's Aries season. We've had a ton of planets moving into new signs. It's like we had a little lull there, like end of February, beginning of March, where things were just really calm in the solar system. You know, there weren't a ton of major transits happening. And now it's like Mercury's moving, Mercury's doing things, Mercury's going to go retrograde next month. Like we're starting to really get back into a very active astrological season. And I love that you brought up eclipse season too, and this Uranus activation, because we'll talk about this a little bit more in a second, but on Sunday, we have Mercury conjunct Uranus too. So if today or tomorrow, it kind of feels like, I don't know what's going to happen next, I don't fully understand the changes or the shifts happening, you might gain more clarity after the full moon, or we might all just have to wait until eclipse season comes and shakes things up in a way that we can't really predict. You know, that's the fun thing about eclipses. You just don't really know what's going to happen.
It's very true. But no, I agree. I do think that the Mercury connection with Uranus is going to bring more clarity this weekend. And it might be a little bit of an aha moment for the things we're feeling now. Like, it might be like, okay, the full moon hit. I'm making sense now. Like, because sometimes Uranus brings these flashes of insight. And with Mercury, it's, you know, we might have some downloads, I think, after the full moon. I hope.
I think you're right. Jazz says, I'm a Libra sun too. And she said, we have so many Libras watching, and she says,
we do
resonate. Yeah, it can be hard to get the balance right sometimes. And we're all feeling that, not just the Libras, you know, really trying to come into balance, trying to feel just like calm, right? Like trying to find that like nice, like, okay, we're cool. Everything's fine. But we know that, like, I think intuitively we just can kind of feel when things are coming up. So let's talk about Saturday and the energy actually surrounding this full moon. It becomes full right around noon on Saturday for those of us who live in the Pacific time zone. And we talked about kind of just the energy in general of the Libra full moon, but it will be at 26 degrees in Libra. So this is a great time to take a look at your chart, see where 26 degrees Libra falls. We will go through each rising sign and kind of what house this is falling in for you, but it's nice to look at your own chart, because sometimes, depending on where the houses start, it could be in a different house, or you might have another planet opposing it or on top of it. Or so there's a lot of different influences that can affect how you experience the full moon. So yeah, 26 degrees Libra is where this is happening. And again, it's all about our relationships, all about trying to find balance. I think using this full moon, I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, but just like finding someone you trust and processing emotionally by talking through things with them, or just being around them, you know, like being around someone else can really help us figure out our own stuff under a Libra full moon. And this full moon at 6 a.m. tomorrow is going to form a trine to Saturn. So Saturn is in Aquarius. Both the moon and Saturn will be in air signs at 23 degrees. So a little earlier in the day, you'll see the moon harmonizing with Saturn here. And this is a nice energy, I think, to start the day before the full moon, because it can really help us just like get grounded, maybe lean into that leadership quality a little bit more that often goes unnoted about Libras, you know, just kind of finding that nice, like, I've got this, I'm in control, I'm mature, I'm in charge, I can make decisions easily, which isn't always natural under Libra energy. Saturn will help us make decisions. And also, Saturn rules our elders. So if you're looking for someone to like bounce your emotions off of in a way, and you're like, I don't have a partner, I don't have a friend who I feel comfortable doing this with, like call your grandma, call your mom, you know, call these people who have lived a lot longer than you and have sage advice, or are just going to love you regardless of how, you know, off the handle you're flying.
Definitely. Yeah, I think that's going to be a really stabilizing vibe for the full moon. I really love that it's connecting with Saturn in this way. And also Saturn and Libra energy really go together quite well, interestingly, because, you know, Libra wants things to be just and fair. And,
Mhm.
so I think that structure is really going to feel helpful. We're going to feel supported and feel like we've got a foundation beneath our feet, even if other aspects of this full moon are a little bit out there. We've got our head in the clouds, but I feel like this trine from Saturn helps us plant our feet in the ground and keep our balance.
And speaking of head in the clouds, Jupiter and Neptune are still in their
Yep.
conjunction, this beautiful, magical conjunction that so many have been talking about. But this moon we have been talking a lot about these uncomfortable angles. This moon is forming an inconjunct angle to that conjunction.
Mm-hmm.
So if it feels like you're not fully like flowing with the Jupiter Neptune magical energy earlier in the day, tomorrow, Saturday, we're just not quite aligned with it under this full moon. It doesn't mean we're clashing with it. It doesn't mean we can't work with it. It just might not be quite as easy to like fly off on your unicorn under this full moon, you know?
Exactly. It's still there. I feel like it's still there. It's still operating in
So
the
powerful too.
background. Yeah, absolutely. This is still really potent time. These are slower
Mhm.
moving planets, so this transit is affecting us for quite a while, honestly. But yeah, I agree. The moon, the full moon energy in particular is just not quite jiving with it. So it's there, but I kind of feel like it's a separate
Yeah.
entity.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it's quite fully integrated with the full moon vibe. Although there are ways that we can integrate that energy too. But
And it might be kind of a blessing now that I'm thinking about it, because Libra is an air sign and can be a little bit all over the place. Like, it isn't the most stable energy. And this Jupiter Neptune conjunction in Pisces is like way out there, way all over the place. So it's
yeah,
kind of nice that we have planets like Saturn bringing support into this full moon, like you said, grounding us, so we don't get too carried away in a fantasy or in a relationship or in love or these things that are both being activated with the Pisces energy and the Libra energy, especially like
definitely.
relationships. I think it's kind of nice that the full moon isn't fully connecting with this conjunction, because it could be really easy like to just run to the chapel and get married if this is all working together. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, no, that
soulmate
is so
syndrome. Yeah.
true. That
Yeah.
is so true. I think we can think of this as, kind of bringing a bit of a connection to this Pisces energy, is that this moon is ruled by Venus, because the moon is in Libra and Libra's ruling planet is Venus. And so if we want to look at what Venus is up to, well, Venus is in Pisces.
Mm-hmm.
Not quite conjunct Jupiter and Neptune yet, but so that energy, I think, is sort of being brought in that way. It's still an influence. So it's still there. I think this Pisces energy still feels really important, despite the fact that it's not really aspecting this moon in the most powerful or most easy flowing way.
Yeah, I agree. Now let's talk about a little bit of a challenging aspect under this full moon, because that's kind of what comes up next on the chronological order of transits. The moon is going to square off to Pluto. This is right after it officially becomes full. So Pluto is in Capricorn at 28 degrees, and you can see the moon will form a square to it because these are both in cardinal signs, which means that they're very they have strong influences of their own. And when the moon squares off to Pluto, we can experience some intense emotions, power struggles, manipulation. This is, I think, especially going to be true when we're talking about relationships, which is really like a core focus of this full moon. If we're not getting our way, or we're not feeling heard, or our feelings aren't being received in the way we want them to be received, maybe things aren't going as beautifully and balanced as we want them to go, things could get a little bit rocky with the moon squaring off to Pluto. And like you said, there's this T-square happening as well to the sun. So Pluto becomes, you'll see the T-square, because a full moon means there's an opposition between the moon and the sun. And then Pluto over here is squaring off to both of them. And essentially, Pluto becomes like the pivotal point in that T-square. And now that I'm thinking about it, we've been talking about like a shift coming, a change coming, like what's going to happen. This full moon could bring a transformation because of Pluto squaring off to it.
I think it can. I really think it can, because obviously with the T square, there's a lot of tension. Especially with Pluto, there's a lot of intensity, and like you said, I think we could find ourselves struggling with power dynamics in our relationships. Um, there's also this element to Pluto that's like, digging for information and like trying to get beneath the surface. And so I think with these squares, which are kind of more challenging energy, we could find ourselves sort of like even obsessing over things in our relationship, or kind of like wanting to, it's sort of like, okay, like I want to know, like I want to dig, I want to
Yeah.
find something out, or like I just like, like really fixating on things. And yeah, but at the same time, I agree, like Pluto is this planet of transformation, and I think squares always bring us a chance to, like, we can always turn the corner of the square,
Yeah.
right? Like that is the challenge. Like it's a challenge, but it's what leads us to, we get around that corner, we round that edge so that we can move forward. So it's a challenge that we have to like rise to the occasion to meet. And I think if we do, we can really embrace like the transformative energy that's here with Pluto. So I know T squared like sounds scary, and it's an intense aspect, but with squares there's always it's a problem that we can solve. And I really think that if we work with it, that we can find this, transformative energy and sort of get past it, and feel like we broke through the other side, sort of in this very Plutonian rebirth kind of way.
And I think what is coming to mind for me too is there's a tendency anytime Pluto is involved in an intense angle like this, there's a tendency to control. Like we really want to control things. You might feel like you're trying to control someone else, whether it's conscious or subconscious. Pluto rules the subconscious and can bring things out from the subconscious. So if you find yourself trying to control, trying to manipulate, this full moon in Libra and the Libra energy can help you come back to like, okay, wait, we're supposed to both be getting something out of this. We got to work together. We need the other person on the other side of this relationship to help us grow.
Yeah.
So it's nice that we have this Libra cooperative energy, even though Pluto in Capricorn wants to control, maybe wants to be a little bit more in charge. And the Aries sun as well wants to be in charge. And what we'll see, we'll talk about this more next week, but I believe on Monday or Tuesday, the sun comes into a square with Pluto directly. And so, this could be a very transformative time, I think specifically internally with the sun squaring off to Pluto, not only in relationships, but it's like you have to transform within to transform without. So
Definitely.
Something that has just been coming up throughout the week looking at the transits is like really paying attention to like what's coming up for you and how can you release it under the full moon. Anything that's coming up is asking to be released, whether that's in a relationship, whether that's with yourself, and really to flow and find that balance. We talked about this a lot yesterday with Mars moving into Pisces. This is a time to try to flow rather than force things. And I think we're going to see that as well with the moon squaring off to Pluto.
Definitely. And I think, in that theme of release and letting go that we're given under a full moon, it's a really good time to try to let go of the need to control.
Yes.
Or conversely, let go of if there are relationships that are controlling, that are not allowing that Aries sun to shine out of you, right? Like that is a time also to consider, okay, maybe the corner that I need to turn with this square is letting go of this relationship that feels like it's controlling in some way, that's not allowing my, that Aries, like, here I am, I'm going to do what I want to do, like not allowing that energy to shine, because it is, still Aries season. So I think this can be a powerful time for releasing control in relationships, and also releasing relationships that control in a way that we don't want, we don't align with.
That's such a good point too. Like, yeah, everything you said, I agree with. So good. Okay, so the moon is actually going to move into Scorpio on Saturday evening, about 5:30-ish on Saturday evening. So if you're working with the full moon on Saturday, just know that it's going to be in Scorpio on Saturday night, which is not balanced energy, quite the opposite. I'm a Scorpio moon. Don't take offense to me saying this. Like, I work with this energy all the time. But intense emotions, especially coming off of that T-square with Pluto and the full moon, could kind of bring you into your own depths with the moon and Scorpio for the rest of the weekend. And it could be a very like introspective or deep dive energy into like, if something comes up, like, where is this coming from? Let's go within. Let's really investigate. Let's bring it all out now because full moon and this is the time to let it go. So there's a really beautiful energy of release with the moon and Scorpio, but it can feel really intense while we're going through it.
Definitely. I agree. I think that one kind of exciting thing about that is that it's going to be trining Mars.
Yes.
The moon will be trining Mars. And actually that energy will kind of be even active at the time of the full moon. I think it'll be like just under 5 degrees apart. So we still will feel that supportive trine from Mars, you know, planet of motivation and power and action. And so I think that, you know, although the moon is not necessarily the most comfortable in Scorpio, I think that can really motivate us to dig through what has come up under this full moon, what has come to the surface here, and really dig into it. And that's not always comfortable, but I think with Mars there, we're going to feel empowered and ready to take action with it, ready to dig into what's come up and really hopefully let it go or see it for what it is. Or, you know, Scorpio energy wants the truth and nothing but the truth. So we're going to, it's a good energy for just facing what comes, facing it and dealing with it.
And like a very like we can do it attitude. And something I'm seeing too, because Mars is now in Pisces, we still have that conjunction in Pisces to work with under this full moon. If those intense emotions are coming up, if you're working through whatever comes up for you in your life, in relationships or personally, movement is a really great tool when Mars is connecting with the moon. So like moving your body, and also artistic expression under this full moon, I think is such a beautiful way to use this energy, not only because the full moon is ruled by Venus, which is a very creative artistic energy, but also all the Pisces energy happening in the background invites us to be creative and allows us to be creative. And sometimes it's when we're in that creative flow of dancing or singing or making art that we can just release things without even like really having to, I don't know, you know, like it doesn't feel as hard to do when coming out of you naturally, you know. And sometimes creativity, like something comes out of you and you're like, oh, I didn't even realize I was holding on to that.
Totally.
You know? It's natural.
Totally. I agree. I think that's such a great point. The role that creativity and artistic expression can play in this full moon. And I think also just straight up spirituality too. Like Pisces is this such a spiritual, mystical, like transcendental energy. So we've got, you know, the ruler of this full moon, Venus in Pisces. We've got obviously Jupiter, Neptune conjunction. That's huge. And then we've got Mars, this like action-packed Mars that just entered Pisces, I think literally yesterday, actually.
Yeah.
So Mars freshly in Pisces, which obviously Mars maybe doesn't love to be in Pisces because Mars struggles to be its a decisive, get it done self in Pisces, which is just sort of like, let's disperse this energy throughout the universe. But
Mars is, you know, going to be in Aries in like 6 weeks, and it loves to be in Aries. So this, I feel like, is such a beautiful time going into eclipse season and everything to like release, close things out, end things, heal things. And we have the motivation to do it with Mars and Pisces. And when the moon moves into Scorpio, you know, we'll have the ability to really like get in there and figure out what needs to be released under the full moon.
Excavate those feelings. Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be a really helpful time for that.
Absolutely. Okay, let's go through what this full moon means for each sign, and then we'll just briefly touch on what's going on Sunday. Cool. So I figure we'll just go through each sign. I like to go backwards so we can go through the houses forwards, if that makes sense.
That works.
Either way works for me, but that's just how I have it listed out here. So We'll start with Libra risings. So this is a good time. Again, I always put this disclaimer. If you don't know your rising sign, it's usually more accurate to use your rising sign because we're talking about which houses in your chart the moon is moving through, and that's all based on your rising sign. You can get a chart for free on my website. Scan the QR code. There's a link in the description. It's completely free. Just look for the word ascendant rather than rising because that could be a bit confusing if you're new to astrology. So anyway, that's my disclaimer. If you don't know your rising sign, that's totally fine. Just listen up for your sun sign. See if it resonates. If it doesn't, don't take it. So Libra risings, beautiful Libra risings. This full moon is in, now remind me again, what's your rising sign?
Oh, I'm a Scorpio rising.
Well, I love that. I love that for
Scorpio
you.
rising. Yeah. And Pisces moon. I didn't mention that either.
Oh my goodness.
Actually, you know, want to know a fun fact? I decided to talk to an astrologer about this, but the Jupiter Neptune conjunction literally happened less than 1 degree from my moon. Like it was so I have been on another planet for the past like week and a half. And yeah, no, it's wild. It's wild. It was like my moon's at 24 degrees. So
okay,
yeah. Right there.
My sun, I think, is at like 25 degrees or 26 degrees. So it's opposing my sun. So I'm like, I want to feel it. I feel it. Like I see it. But part of me is like, I am not this energy. I'm
right.
Oh
man. And you've got Neptune opposing your sun forever. You know what's funny? My Venus is 21 degrees Virgo. So my Venus is like almost conjunct your sun. So yeah.
This
so
is the fun of astrology.
This is. I love it. Okay. So Libra risings.
Yes.
Libra risings. Happy full moon in your first house.
What the best kind of full moon. Yeah, and so the first house rules ourself, our identity, our purpose. And I know we have at least one person with a Libra rising watching. You can expect this to really like illuminate your sense of self. I know this is a very, we talked about a lot of transformational energy around this full moon, but I think this is really a time to return to yourself and really get comfortable with like your own needs and your own desires and your own purpose. Especially being a Libra rising, how you show up in the world might tend to be more to serve others or help others or relate to others. But this full moon is a really great time to just get comfortable in your own skin and celebrate yourself and all the beautiful things that you bring to this world all on your own.
I agree. And I think remembering that, you know, in order to truly show up for other people in relationships and create these balanced and meaningful partnerships, we have to be able to honor and respect ourselves and our own needs. So, you know, you're serving yourself and you're serving the other people close to you in your life by doing so. And I think that's going to be a really important theme for Libra risings here.
But in general, like, just celebrate yourself. Just have fun under this full moon. Like, I'm biased, but I freaking love a first house full moon transit. It's the best.
I do too. It's a great time to let go too. Like let go of whatever is not serving your authentic true self. Gone. Let it go.
Yeah, it's a fresh start for you. The last full moon was in your 12th house. It probably brought up a lot of things that needed to heal, to be let go of. Now it's like, just start over. You can reinvent yourself whenever you want to, Libra risings. Okay, so our Virgo risings, myself included, this full moon is going to be in our second house and really illuminate our values as well as like our physical possessions and our income. So, you know, there's a lot of different theories about manifestation under a full moon versus a new moon. I'm under the belief that you can manifest anytime you feel inspired to manifest. But specifically, if this full moon is in your second house, it's a really great time to call in abundance and just to acknowledge the abundance already around you, to acknowledge all the physical, beautiful things that you already have in your life, because that's only going to call in more of them. And full moons often get kind of lost in the whole like release, let go. But this is the culmination. This is a celebration and illumination. You know, often this is when people came together to celebrate. So whatever area of your life this is falling in, give yourself a permission to celebrate, but especially if you're a Virgo rising, like just luxuriate in your own abundance, you know?
I love that. I think that focusing on the abundance that's all around you. And abundance isn't, just material things. It's anything that makes us feel abundant in love, in magic, in anything. I think really focusing on that can be so grounding under this full moon, because the sun has been in your 8th house, which is like this kind of sensitive area that's like, beneath the surface stuff and energetic stuff with other people. And so it's a great time to just like ground and like really feel into your own abundance. I think that's beautiful.
And reflect on your values as well, right? With the sun in our 8th house, it might have illuminated some shadows or some things that haven't been fully aligning or haven't been fully seen. So this is a great time to reflect, as we're talking so much about relating to others, using this full moon to relate to people. Reflect on your values. What relationships are aligning with your values? What relationships maybe aren't, that need to be released? So, or just not even relationships, but just anything in your life that's not aligning with your values, or celebrate the things that totally are, that have just come into your life with ease because they're aligning with your energy,
Yeah, it's a great time to take stock of that and take note of that.
So Leo risings will have this full moon in the 3rd house, in the house of communication and information. And as much as we're talking about relationships, like, this is a time to talk it out with people, or just have a conversation, maybe bring in new information into your awareness. You might have been really expansive and like really wanting to learn a lot of new things during Aries season with the sun in your 9th house. But with the full moon in the 3rd house, it's really asking you to like integrate those things, process those things, and kind of like solidify them in your own self.
I totally agree. And I think that, even lighthearted conversations right now can offer you this really beautiful, enlightening perspective. Like there's so, you're in this period where, like you said, the sun is lighting up the 9th house of knowledge and adventure. And so this full moon is kind of helping you integrate those things by talking it out with other people, or even like, because there's all this emotional energy here too, writing out thoughts, communicating that way, blogging, making a post on Instagram that's like, connecting with people and sharing your ideas. What's coming up? Like what magical ideas have come forth this month? Connect with other people on those.
Yeah, or what have you learned too? If you've been learning all these beautiful things, especially with the spiritual energy in the background, sharing what you learned or talking with someone else about what you learned can help. Sometimes it like helps me solidify things if I talk through them.
Yes.
But also, you never know who you might inspire to go on their own journey, depending on where
so
they're at in their
true.
life. So it's a really great time to socialize if you're a Leo rising.
Yeah.
Which Leo risings probably love to do anyway. So
Exactly. Validation.
Right. Cancer risings, this full moon will be in the 4th house. Really perfect for Cancer energy, because the 4th house is ruled by Cancer. The 4th house rules our home, our family, our roots, our foundations. And so this Libra full moon might bring up your relationship to your closest family, maybe your relationship to your mother or the people who raised you. You might be reflecting a lot on the home you're creating for yourself as well. Like this full moon is really about family, I think, for Cancer risings. And with the sun in the 10th house, I love how we're kind of talking about this opposition that's playing out. There might have been a really big focus on your career or your work, or you might have felt really busy at work during Aries season so far. So this full moon's really a lovely time to just like come back home to yourself, come back home to the people who you feel safe around, and like give yourself just a chance to be around people who you're already comfortable with.
Totally. Creating that safe space for yourself, creating, time to comfort yourself. Another interesting thing I want to note for Cancer risings and Cancer placements in general for this full moon is that we've got this T-square between Moon in Libra, Sun in Aries, and then Pluto and Capricorn all squaring off. And sort of the missing piece, or what's sometimes called the release point of the T-square is in Cancer. That Cancer energy is sort of the missing link of this T-square that would make it a grand cross, right? So I think there's an element too of like, you can relieve some of this tension of the full moon by just doing what you do best, just embracing that nurturing, and it's in the 4th house, so that nurturing Cancerian fourth house energy, being gentle with yourself, creating a safe space to connect with the people closest to you. I think that's really going to feel so good under this full moon. And I think that, you know, you might, it can help you sort of like just lean into yourself and your natural gifts and talents in some ways.
Yeah, I see, like, I just picture like a pajama party. If you're a Cancer rising, you know, like
Yes.
order some pizza, nothing fancy. You don't need to go out of your way to like make a whole thing out of it and host. Just like have the people who you're comfortable seeing you with your hair up in a messy bun and in your pajamas, and just, you know, have a chill night or a chill weekend with those people who, you know, are going to love you regardless of how whatever comes up with all the Pluto activation, whatever transformation you're going through. Like, be around the people who, you know, are going to like love you regardless.
Cozy vibes.
Yeah, our closest
Exactly.
friends,
Yeah, our
partners.
family or our chosen family. Yeah, like Pluto obviously opposite from Cancer right now is about control, but you know, Cancer, you don't need to control anything right now. You just make your safe space and get cozy and focus on comfort. And I think, you know, comfort and connection and nurturing, I think that's the way to go.
Such a beautiful energy if you're a Cancer rising, or really if you have any major placements in Cancer, like great energy for you this weekend. Okay, Gemini risings. This is in the 5th house, this full moon, the house of creativity and art and self-expression. And so I really see this Libra full moon as, again, this is a very social transit, I think, for you, but also just like a time to express yourself, like let it all out. You know, if there's anything you've been holding within, it's time to just expel it, but do it in a fun way, right? Like, it's all about having fun with the 5th house. So we were talking about the moon harmonizing with Mars on Saturday night. Like, go out dancing, go to a show, enjoy the theater, just do whatever it is that lights you up and is fun for you. That's going to be especially nurturing and helpful for you to process everything that comes up during this full moon.
I love that. Yeah. I think Aries season is very much social butterfly mode for Geminis who are already kind of social butterflies, honestly. But yeah, I think focusing on fun, focusing on pleasure, you know, doing something that really activates that inner child, and you know, also considering like what in my social life is bringing joy and supporting my creativity, and what isn't. If something isn't, like it's really important to honor like your creativity and your passions as well, because I think Gemini can sometimes be this multitasking kind of butterfly like energy that's all over the place, and it's like, no, you gotta make sure your friends are supporting your endeavors too, your passions, the things that make you feel joyful and excited about life. So that's something to keep in mind.
And I think Geminis too have such a busy energy a lot of the time that they kind of can fall into the trap of like, oh, I can do it all, you know, like I can just do everything. But I love what you said about like, if it's not bringing you joy, if it's not fun, if it's not playful, why are you doing it? You know? So like, if it doesn't feel fun, if you can't play with the energy of the full moon while you're doing it, then don't do it this weekend. Just, I would say,
follow
like,
your excitement.
If there's anything on your to-do list that you're like, hard no, like just put it off. We don't need to do it under the full moon right now, unless it's like a deadline. You know, I'm not giving you like full permission to just not take care of your responsibilities, but you know, just lean into fun and pleasure too. Love that you said that. Yeah. Especially with the full moon in Libra, it's all about pleasure, you know?
Right, exactly. So we got to have fun. We got to enjoy ourselves. And Gemini, you go follow your heart this weekend.
Yes. Taurus risings will have this full moon in the 6th house. So I'm really focusing on health, wellness, habits, routines, which is interesting when we're talking about so much pleasure and play and fun and just relating to other people, like this really beautiful energy of the Libra full moon. For you, this could be a chance to reflect on like your daily habits. Are they serving you? Are they bringing balance into your life? Do they feel harmonious? Does it feel easy? There is this energy of like ease that comes along with Libra, I think, of kind of just wanting to like make things more balanced. So If you've been pushing too hard in your routine and you're feeling burned out, this could be a time to step back. Or if you've been a little bit of a couch potato as a Taurus rising and you're not leaning into your routine enough, taking care of your health enough, the Libra full moon could kind of push you in the other direction to bring more balance in and more well-being into your life.
Totally. Yeah, I agree. And work-life balance comes to mind here too. Just definitely balancing, the responsibilities in your life with the other things you want to do. And I think Taurus energy is great at focusing on that energy anyway, because they're very hardworking, but they're also these Venus babies who love pleasure. So, just striking that balance when it comes to your responsibilities will be, I think, an important theme.
And if you're a Taurus rising too, like we'll talk about this in a moment, but Mercury and Uranus are meeting up in your first house or around your Taurus placements, whatever you have in Taurus. And that can bring a little bit of activation around changing something or transforming something or having some sort of breakthrough. So I think paying attention to your work, paying attention to your habits can kind of help you gain the insight around what needs to shift, what needs to change for you to be your best self and keep showing up. I think sometimes Tauruses and Taurus placements can like really dig in once they have a plan and they're like, this is what we're doing, like we're sticking to the course. This is what we've decided. But this Libra moon invites you to like actually step back and weigh out your options. You are allowed to change. Uranus lets you change very easily this weekend. So
exactly. Yeah. And that's a great point that Mercury is now in Taurus as well, because I think that can really help with this full moon in the 6th house of, daily routines and organization. You've got Mercury on your team right now. You've got Mercury there helping you think logically and make a solid plan and, kind of execute your tasks, because Mercury is this, kind of taskmaster energy. So I think that's actually really helpful under this full moon. It's a great alignment.
And I see a change of plans for you too. If you're a Taurus rising, you probably don't want to hear that, but I see like be open to changing your plans, with, like we said, with Mercury and Uranus conjunct and this happening in your 6th house, like be open to a shift in your routine or your plans.
Yeah, definitely.
Aries risings this is going to activate the 7th house. So really beautiful with Libra energy, the house of relationships, normally ruled by Libra. It's going to fall in your 7th house if you are an Aries rising. And this is going to be all about relationships for you, all about partnerships. If you're an Aries, you might feel a lot of the time like, okay, I have to do it on my own, like really solidly about yourself, not necessarily selfish, but just having a strong sense of self. This full moon is inviting you to let other people in, to let people be part of your mission or your purpose or whatever that you're doing. Having other people be part of that is only going to make it stronger and help whatever you're brewing up, help it grow.
I totally agree. I think this is a really great time to be able to see things in your relationship, that in your closest relationships that maybe you couldn't see before, because the full moon can bring illumination. It can help us see things and bring sort of these revelations. And so I think that's important too. Like, see what comes up. Like, what are you seeing? Where are your relationships at? Are there imbalances there that you need to address, that you can kind of handle under this full moon illumination? I think by doing so, Aries risings can bring a lot of healing to their partnerships and sort of maybe let go of some of the hangups and be able to commit to things in a more wholehearted way. So so just focusing on communicating in relationships, addressing things that need addressing, that'll feel really, really good.
And especially because the sun's been moving through your 1st house, like there's really this renewed sense of self during Aries season for you. It's like a new year personally for you. So assessing, like you said, the relationships, the people that you have in your life, how are they contributing to this new drive or purpose you're experiencing? And maybe how can you use whatever new energy you're feeling and infuse that into relationships as well. Okay, our Pisces risings, this full moon is happening in your 8th house. Now, if you're a Pisces rising or a Pisces, major Pisces placements in general, like you're probably feeling all the feels. You normally feel all the feels, but especially with the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, with Mars and Venus in Pisces, there is a lot going on for you. And this full moon in the 8th house just takes things to like a next level when it comes to emotions. You know, it can like really bring like a flood of emotions in. Not necessarily negative, but just, I will say, like, prepare for a lot of emotions.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot for Pisces. And one thing that comes to mind for Pisces under this full moon is boundaries, the importance of boundaries. We might find that, as Pisces risings, our need to, things will be illuminated. We might see the areas where we really do need to set some boundaries, because that's one of the themes of the 8th house. So, I think it'll be helpful to kind of assess where lines are getting blurred in relationships, which no one can blame you if that's happening, because you've got a lot of energy going on in your first house right now. If you're a Pisces rising, a lot of intensity going on. So yeah, I think it's good to, think about where you want to set some lines and protect your energy. I think that'll be maybe a little bit of a helpful guide in some ways to navigating any of the big emotions that come up.
Especially with the sun in your 2nd house, you might have been reflecting a lot on your own values during Aries season. So like using that information, setting those boundaries. And the 8th house can also be a house of release and cutting cords, cutting energetic ties. So that can be part of, creating a boundary can cut an energetic tie, being like, yeah, I'm no longer receiving that energy, which is difficult to do if you have a lot of Pisces placements. You just want to give to everybody, and it's, you want to just be floating on a cloud and everybody to be happy. But especially because we can feel other people's emotions very sensitively if we have a lot of Pisces energy, especially right now. So just remember, you got to take care of you before you can take care of anybody else. And part of that is, like you said, protecting your energy, because you have such beautiful energy if you're a Pisces. So you got to protect it.
Exactly. You've got that huge aura of like empathy and magic. And so, it's important to just set some boundaries and make sure that, you know what's coming in and coming out, and you're in control of that.
Yeah, it is part of your like mission, I think, as a Pisces, to protect your magic too. I think a lot of Pisces get lost when they don't recognize their own magic and their own potential, and they just kind of like float through life, So this could be a time of claiming that too, like claiming your power. The 8th house is like the powerhouse, so claiming that magical power within you and protecting it and making sure that you're not just giving it away,
Yeah, agreed.
Okay. Aquarius risings, the full moon is in the 9th house for you, the expansive 9th house. And, if you're an Aquarius, you probably like to be, or an Aquarius rising at least, there's part of you that likes to be free and kind of do your own thing, march to the beat of your own drum. And I really think this full moon is going to amplify that. Like, how can you take that to another continent? How can you explore another culture, maybe expand your mind even more than it's already expanded? If you've been learning new things during Aries season, this is definitely the time to start like sharing them, and I don't want to say like giving them away, but just like shouting it from the mountaintops,
Yes. I think there's a lot of leveling up happening with this full moon for Aquarius rising. I totally would agree with everything you said. And I think it's a great time to just stay open to other perspectives, and really kind of think big, like think grandiose. Aries season for Aquariuses can kind of have us in the details a little bit, have you in the details, and, you're kind of focusing on your day-to-day stuff and just focusing on what's right around you, like your present environment. But this full moon reminds you, oh no, this world is vast. Your dreams can go far. So think big right now. Like sometimes it's good to get macro, right? But I think this full moon illuminates, to get micro. I said macro. So it's good to get micro sometimes, but this full moon is a really good time to, I think bigger and broader, and, extend your aspirations very far and wide.
And I think also an invitation to like be a little extra under this full moon if you're an Aquarius rising, especially with the Libra energy. It's like, let yourself just like feel the pleasure. And, I feel like, I mean, I don't want to like give anybody bad advice, but like make that big purchase, like treat yourself to something. I don't know. I just feel like go big. Whatever you're doing, just like go big with it.
Yeah, go big. Good time to go big.
Yes. Capricorn risings. You'll love this. The full moon is in the 10th house for you, the house of career and long-term goals, something that you might think about quite a bit as a Capricorn rising. So, this is really going to light up your career or whatever goals you've been working towards. You might experience a culmination of a long-term goal, or this could be a time to recalibrate and rebalance how much of your energy you're putting towards these big dreams you have, or your financial wealth long-term, or whatever it is that you're working on, and how much of your energy maybe you haven't been giving to the things that are nurturing you, because the sun's in the 4th house, really illuminating your family and your home. But there's definitely part of you with the full moon in the 10th house that's like, we got to keep working towards those big goals. So kind of finding balance between like home and work, or between comfort and expansion in a lot of ways.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely agreed. And another thing for Capricorns, I think just a little bit of advice that I was kind of thinking about is the phrase like, you catch more bees with honey than you do with vinegar, right? Not that Capricorn's putting out vinegar. Like, we know, you know what you're doing, but
Capricorn can be a little cold.
Yeah, it can be. And I think, Libra energy is, it's airy. It's not necessarily this like watery, compassionate kind of energy, but it is diplomatic and thoughtful and kind and polite, Libras are sort of stereotypically nice. And I think kind of try injecting a little bit of extra kindness and compassion into your like work dealings, and watch things kind of like, I think that could bode well under this full moon, especially when working with like your higher ups or your boss or anything like that, because the 10th house relates to like authority figures and like and also being an authority in your own life too. So I think that, just a little thought and a side note for Capricorns, that this could be a great time to just sweeten things up a little bit, and then maybe you're going to get what you want. Maybe you're going to see what you want career-wise a little bit more, and inject a little bit of that Libra diplomacy into your dealings and see how that goes. I think it could go well.
I love that you said that, because also remember, we're all experiencing the same energy, right? We experience it differently, but we're all experiencing the same energy. And it could just be that that business partner or your boss or whoever sees like, just because you're being a little extra nicer than you normally are, oh, I can really have a relationship with this person. Remember, the full moon's all about relationships. And who do we want to work with? People that we can relate to well. So remember that, and know that your ruling planet, if you're a Capricorn rising, is harmonizing with this full moon. Saturn is harmonizing with this full moon. So you're getting a ton of support. It'll flow easily and really allow you to step into a leadership role. But remember that the best leaders are often leaders that we can relate to, or that we can feel like we can approach easily. Sometimes as a Cap rising, we get really serious and like a little bit closed off from relating to other people. So remember that relationships play a big role in your career or those long-term goals that you're trying to achieve. I love that you said that. Okay, I know a lot of Sag rises in the house. Saying that they've been waiting for their sign. So here you go. If you're a Sag rising, the full moon is in your 11th house. And I really love this energy for you if you're a Sagittarius rising, because normally Sag risings love to be around other people. Again, a very social sign, very social energy. The 11th house is the house of the collective, the house of community. So really aligning or finding a community of people who you can relate to under the Libra full moon, who share the same values as you. Libra rules our values as well. So not just going out to go out and be around people, but being intentional around who you're surrounding yourself with. And I think if you have that intention before you go out on Saturday night or whatever your weekend plans entail, you might actually find that you create a deeper connection with the people around you rather than just going out to be in that environment.
Yeah, I totally hear that. And additionally, I think that this could be a really powerful time to like smooth over any issues that are going on in your social life, like whether it's drama or just disagreements. I think that the Libra full moon can kind of bring imbalances into the light a little bit more. And so I think you might feel more empowered to address these things head on and really bring that sense of harmony back to your social group, your community, whatever community you're a part of. Like, it's really important that you feel in harmony with that community and you feel like supported and in tune and aligned with the friends that you surround yourself with, the social life that you engage with. So yeah, I think you can kind of play mediator in some ways and really, bring your worldly perspective. Of course, Sag risings are very worldly and they can see things from a lot of different perspectives when they choose to. And I think now is a really great time to do that and to bring that sort of worldly vision into your crew and kind of like, address any issues there to make sure things are flowing smoothly and that everyone's really feeling good and together, working together.
And the 11th house also rules like humanitarian causes or causes that we care about. So this could be a great time as well to, even if you're not like going out physically with people, you're just like relating to people online or connecting with people on social media, which I feel like is really prominent for the 11th house as well. Like, you never know, like sharing about a cause that you care about could form that intentional connection with someone else that you might not even be expecting, so like really whatever relating you're doing or community you're involved in, coming back to your own values before you start making connections. I think Sag risings, my mom is a Sag rising, and her catchphrase, I kid you not, like this will be on her tombstone, is I can make friends with a doorknob. Like she can literally make friends with anybody, but it's like, okay, all of those friendships aren't necessarily really aligned with like your own values if you're making friends with everybody, right? So just again, being intentional about who you're connecting with, and also because you are so social, like maybe connecting other people too, like you said, being the mediator, making sure everybody is connecting in a way that feels good.
Yeah.
And last but certainly not least, and perfect because you are a Scorpio rising, this full moon is in your 12th house. So a full moon in the 12th house just screams like release and healing, especially with the Chiron opposition, with the square to Pluto. This is really a time to just like let go, let God, and let it flow.
Oh, 100%. I think this can be really cleansing. I think it's a really good time to just like clear out the archives and like try to start letting things go, especially because and this is true for Tauruses too. Taurus and Scorpio, we both have these eclipses coming up over the coming month in our signs, in these really, really sensitive parts of our chart that can be really particularly transformative. And so I think this full moon is a great time to just like clear that slate and focus on healing and restoration, because the eclipses are going to swoop in and we might find that we have a lot of major revelations and twists and turns and interesting things coming up in our lives. So I think this can be a kind of time of spiritual introspection in some ways for Scorpio rising.
And get your rest. Make sure you're getting enough sleep, literally, but also make sure you are getting enough like restoration for your body, for your spirit, because this eclipse season is going to be really activating if you are a Scorpio or a Taurus or have major placements in those areas. So I would say just like give yourself time to really like lean into pleasure under this Libra full moon. Let yourself just like be, feel comfortable, be restful. And sometimes quieting down, being still can help us process and release things by just like being still enough to actually hear what's going on internally,
Yeah, I agree. And, we've got Aries season for Scorpio risings is activating the 6th house of, responsibilities and work things and
go.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's so important. I think this full moon can illuminate like don't get lost in that. Like, there's a lot of spiritual work and healing to be done, especially with these eclipses coming up in such important sensitive parts of your chart, that like it's, you know, you might want to put that work maybe on hold for a minute, or at least get some perspective. Like, that's not everything. I have internal work to do too. I have internal things to focus on too, and I have responsibilities to myself, to my spiritual self as well, and growth to do and healing to do. So I think that's so just, you know, give yourself time to do that. I think granting yourself time to just chill, relax, maybe meditate, maybe take a full moon bath, whatever it is you want to do. I think that's important for this one.
And a spiritual practice under the full moon, specifically if you're a Scorpio rising, could be really beautiful and a really great way to release even just something as simple as like pulling a card, you know, like asking, what do I need to know? And just see what comes up, or charge your crystals, or sit outside under the full moon for like literally 5 minutes. All of that. It can just be something small. It doesn't have to be a whole to do, but it could be really powerful for you.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think, you know, that's the last sign we're doing, right? Because I think that ends us on a really interesting note, which is that, you know, a lot of astrologers, and I don't know how you feel about this, but a lot of astrologers say, you know, eclipse season is not always the best time to work with the moon for like personal intentions or manifestations.
Yeah.
And I know everybody feels differently, but I think the thought behind it is, you know, eclipses can bring this very sort of chaotic energy. They align with the nodes of destiny. So there's this element of like, we're being realigned with our destiny and our fate. So it's less about maybe what we want, and it's more about where are we supposed to be? Where are we on our path? Where are we supposed to be? What is the universe trying to tell us? And it's maybe more about listening. So that's kind of how I see it. So in that sense, this full moon is like the last big lunation before eclipse season. So I think it's a great time to like do that moon ritual that you want to do, or set those full moon intentions, or do that full moon cleansing that you want to do. Charge your crystals. I wouldn't recommend charging crystals under an eclipse. So this might be your last good chance to do that, to really work with the moon for your own intentions. This is the time, and that's not just for Scorpio risings. I think that's for every sign. Yeah, so this is a great one for that. And I think the overall energy of the astrology right now is supporting that, because this Jupiter Neptune conjunction can be so spiritual, can really help us get mystical, really help us tap into like that world of the intangible and the invisible and the magical. There's so much abundance there. There's so much opportunity there right now. So I think it might be easier to sort of lean into that moon magic under this full moon. And I think it's a great time to do it.
Absolutely. So well said. And it's like eclipse season, like we're not driving the bus anymore. The universe is driving is behind the wheel for eclipse season. So this is kind of your last stop of like, okay, we're in control. We are kind of asking for what we want, putting the energy out there. Eclipse season kind of takes over the energy for a little bit. So yes, a great point. If you are someone who likes to work with the full moon, definitely work with this one. And like we said, like you can manifest whenever you want. We're manifesting every moment, you know, our thoughts create our reality, all these things. But specifically when it comes to like ceremony and intention, the reason, and we'll talk about this more during the next full moon and during eclipse season, but the light of the moon is blocked during an eclipse. So that's why we're working with the light of the moon. That's why a full moon, it's illuminated. So the moonbeams are like charging your crystals. That's kind of the theory behind it, you know. So that's why you don't want to charge your crystals during an eclipse, because you're getting different like energy blocking the rays, essentially. That's a really like dumbed down way of saying it, but yeah.
No, it's true though. Like I've heard people say that the energy, the power of the luminaries, the sun and moon, they're compromised during an eclipse.
Yeah.
You know, they are literally eclipsed. So, you know, that's not necessarily the energy that we want to be soaking up into our crystals or our moon water. That's more just like, let's sit back and, like you said, we're not driving the bus. That's okay. We're going to see where the universe is taking us. It's a great time to listen. So this full moon is sort of our chance to do all the moon magic stuff. Work with the moon, charge your crystals, make some moon water, take a moon bath if you want. You know, if that's something you're into.
Jupiter Neptune conjunction too is like supporting all the mystical things. do them all.
Definitely.
Buy crystals, learn about astrology. Someone was just saying all this Pisces energy is bringing vivid dreams, visions, learning about it. I love how we were talking about how both of us are getting into human design, like learning a new spiritual practice or concept. So, you know, if you're feeling that energy too, like lean into it this weekend, lean into it under this full moon.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, we can kind of, oh, it's funny. This is the pink moon. I know that's not necessarily an astrological term, but it's the pink moon, which feels very cute for Libra, because Libra loves like the cute aesthetic, Venus, right? But I think it's funny, kind of alignment with like pink and rosiness, like this rose colored glasses energy of the Jupiter Neptune conjunction, of having both Venus and Mars now in Pisces, the lover planets, that's also got this sort of like rose colored glasses energy. But I think what's cool is the balance. This full moon also helps to ground us. Are you still there?
We're back. Can you see me?
We're back.
Sometimes it just decides to glitch. We don't know why. But what you were saying about the pink moon, so perfect for Libra energy. And just like really romantic, dreamy, sweet vibes under this full moon for everybody to work with. Even if it's being challenging in your chart or, you know, activating something difficult in your chart, just know that we're being supported with this like really sweet, loving energy. And really quickly, I know we've been talking forever, which I absolutely love, but I do want to discuss what's happening on Sunday, not just because it's Easter, and you posted a great video about Easter and the astrological connection, how it's related to the full moon.
Yeah, and I didn't know that for most of my life.
Yeah, that's so cool. You know, you just think like growing up, I thought they just like picked a day, you know, like, oh, it's just the third, whatever. Yeah.
Oh, it's so funny. The first full moon to fall either on or after the spring equinox is the full moon that determines the date of Easter. So the Sunday after the first full moon of Aries season, basically, is always going to be Easter. Wild.
Right. And it's like supposed to be based off of like this very specific event in the Bible happening, you know, and it's like, did it just happen around the full moon? If you're like Catholic and you believe in Jesus and all these things, did he just like, he was risen because the full moon was in the sky? Or it just I love how much content is coming out too about like the alignment between astrology and the Bible and all these like theories that I've been seeing. I'm so here for it. I think it's so
It is so fascinating, and it's so true too. Astrology is all up in the Bible, which is just so cool to learn about. Yeah, it's a fun thing to research if anybody wants to do some digging.
Yes, a great time to do it with the Jupiter Neptune conjunction too.
Doing your spiritual research.
Yeah, Pisces rules religion too. And you know, Sunday actually could be a great day to do that research because our main activation transit that's happening on Sunday, Mercury is forming a conjunction to Uranus. So Mercury and Uranus are literally meeting up in Taurus. That happens on Sunday night. And a little earlier than that, Mercury forms a sextile to Venus. So really all around the same time, Mercury and Uranus are together and they're both getting support from Venus. Like we said earlier, this could bring a change in perspective, especially if we're leaning into that loving energy of the Libra full moon, that Venus energy relating to other people, pleasure, our values, all these things ruled by Venus. They could help us have a change of perspective or have a breakthrough or have a download, an insight, a realization, an innovative idea could pop through with Mercury and Uranus together. This is a very forward-thinking energy because Uranus is often associated with the future. So it could be like that missing piece, like we were saying, of like, we are not sure. There's kind of this uncertain energy leading up to this full moon. We're all kind of floating around in Pisces energy with all the activation in Pisces, but I think Sunday could be like, with this happening in an earth sign, like that solidified, like, oh, aha, grounding some sort of idea from the ether into the physical.
Oh, I love that. I love that interpretation. And I totally agree. It also makes me think creativity, because with Mercury connecting with Venus, which is like planet of beauty and art, and then with Uranus, which can kind of bring these shocks of inspiration. I think it's a great time to like generate some creative ideas. Like
Yeah.
if you're a creative person, if you're looking for some inspiration, I think Sunday could be a totally creatively inspiring day in that way. I think that'll be cool.
Totally. And like we were saying, with all of this energy of like Easter and spiritual research and things like that, using that as well could bring a new idea or some sort of like insight in that sparks new creativity too. Sometimes it's when we consume information that we're like, oh, we could do something with this. We can like make something out of this, So definitely be open to creativity and just have an open mind as well. Like be open to change or a change in perspective. Someone said, I'm finding it hard to concentrate the past couple of days. Could this be the full moon or the Pisces energy? And I would say both. And also Mercury coming into a conjunction with Uranus, I think can make us a little bit like scrambled in the mind, like we just kind of are like wanting like, oh, let's do this idea. Oh no, let's change and do this idea. It can kind of be like whatever's exciting us at the moment is where our mind goes. I've been feeling that too, though, for sure.
Yeah, and I think there's a straight up full Pisces stellium happening, and that can feel foggy in some ways. Pisces is sort of this nebulous cloud of watery, hazy energy, and Neptune is confusion sometimes.
Yeah.
Delusion.
Yeah.
Lack of clarity with Neptune, and we've got Jupiter right on top of it, which is expanding it. And Jupiter is just growth and abundance. And so there can be this element to this conjunction, especially in Pisces, where Jupiter is expanding the sort of like confusion and lack of clarity that Neptune likes. Neptune is like the veil. And Jupiter is sort of like enhancing that. So I think this could totally be the Pisces energy, because I think a lot of people are feeling it in that way. That is totally present, along with all the beautiful mystical parts of it.
Yes, absolutely. And we have 4 planets in Pisces now. And I think something to kind of build off of what you're saying is when we're doing all this spiritual expansion, when we want to learn all the things, it can challenge our current beliefs. It can be confusing. We're like, how can this be true and this be true? So there's this energy of like also trying to figure out what's true to us. The Libra moon could help that, kind of returning to our own values. But also there's such an energy with all the Pisces and all the Libra of like self versus others, like trying to figure out like, how do we fit in, but also how do we stay true to us,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And Maribel asks, what are your favorite ways of charging your crystals?
Ooh, before I had my own little like outdoor area, I would put them on my windowsill and I would just set them out that way. But now if it's not going to rain, I will just straight up set them outside on this little table I have, like this little porch table, and I'll set them out there and leave them out. And also, you can charge, if you don't want to charge under a full moon, you can also just kind of charge crystals with your own intentions too, just like meditating on your intentions with them. And I think that's a really fun way to just, if you want to just charge it with what you want, how you want to align with the crystal, how you want the crystal to serve you. I think you can do that too. Yeah. What about you, Olivia?
I just stick them outside, and I don't do it every full moon. It's like, for me, like I said, the Virgo full moon was in my first house, and I was like, yes, I love this energy. I got to do the moon water and then I've been trying to grow my hair out. So I used my moon water and I like dipped my hair in it. Cause I was like, we're growing abundance.
I love that.
It's like whatever feels fun to you and good to you. There's no right or wrong way to charge crystals or do moon water. If you see an idea, especially around the full moon, I'm sure there'll be a million posts that pop up in the next 24 hours of how to work with this full moon. Whatever feels fun or good to you, follow that, because Nina and I, like, we're not experts. We just do what feels good to us,
Totally. And I don't do this stuff under every single full moon. I'll charge my crystals if I feel called to it. And
Yeah.
like I make moon water maybe a couple times a year. I made some moon water under the full moon in Leo when we had that Venus Mars conjunction. I wanted to make like a love potion moon water. So I was
Yes.
like, ooh, this like sexy Leo full moon with the Venus Mars conjunction happening. So I made some moon water under that moon. And so I just do it when I feel inspired. And I think when we see all of these like millions of posts on Instagram about like every full moon, it's like you don't have to do a ritual or don't feel pressured like you're not a good moon baby, not a good moon child if you don't do something for like every single lunation. Like do it when you feel called, because you're working with the energy either way. Like the energy is there, it's working with you. And like if you're acknowledging it and being aware of it, like sometimes you're probably going to feel like putting crystals out and being like, I want to soak this up, I want to like keep this moon energy longer. And then sometimes we might not feel like it, sometimes for good reason. Sometimes certain full moons feel really hard and we don't really want to soak up that energy into our crystals.
Just release
We
it,
just
release
wanna
it,
let
release
go.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
I will say something I like to do too, just if you want a tip, if you want to create moon water, which is literally just putting water in a jar under the full moon. Sometimes I like to use a Post-it and put it under or on top with just like a little intention or a mantra to kind of like infuse into the water. That's something I like to do. You don't have to do that. But sometimes for me, I'm a Mercury ruled person. Like words really help me set my intentions and infuse my intentions into things. So,
oh, I love that. I love that. You can also put crystals around your little jar of water, and they'll infuse with the crystal energy too. I even put jasmine flowers in my love my love potion moon water that I was making. I put like fresh jasmine in there overnight. And the water actually kind of soaked up some of the jasmine scent very slightly too, which is cool, the jasmine oil. So just have fun, do what you feel called to do. I guess the only thing I would say is maybe not under the next new and full moon, because those are both eclipses. But this full moon, fair game for all of your moon magic. So go
wild. Yeah. And last question we'll take is, can you explain how the full moon connects with the previous new moon in the same sign, like the 6-month cycle? So we're talking about the new moon in Libra back in probably October or November. I can't remember the exact date. Right. Or no, sorry, September or October. So probably the beginning of October sometime.
Yeah, I think it was. But I don't know off the top of my head. But yeah, it was around there. It was obviously in Libra season of last year. So yeah, it is like a 6-month cycle in a lot of ways. Because the new and full moon, when they're in the same sign, they're activating the same part of your chart, essentially. So whatever was activated, whatever kind of new things opened up, you can kind of think back and think about the themes that were happening in your life around the date of the new moon in Libra. You can look that up. I don't know, again, exactly when it was, but you might find that some of those themes are either coming to fruition in some way, that there's a bit of a climax, or that something is sort of coming to a conclusion, that there's a letting go of it, that there's a clearing away of it, because that's, full moons are like the fullest point. So it's like this climax. And then also after the full moon, we start shedding and releasing. So yeah, so that's kind of how I see it.
Yes, totally. And now I'm thinking back. So it was October 6th. And this is so fun to do actually on a full moon, to think back to 6 months ago, really celebrate your progress in whatever area of life this is activating. Remember, this is a celebration. This is a culmination. For me personally, I left my job like 5 days before that new moon. And I feel like, 6 months later, I'm really like celebrating the abundance that I've called in since then. So it can be a really fun time. Like, I'm just realizing this. I'm so glad you asked this question.
That is so
it can be a really fun. Yeah, it's a really fun time to reflect and just like give yourself credit for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think something that feels really important for full moons that maybe isn't talked about quite as much is just gratitude, where it's like fullness.
Yes.
Like we're full. It's a time of, the moon is at its peak brightness, peak illumination. So it's a really great time to think back on what has grown in your life since that new moon in Libra. That new moon was fresh. It was the beginning of a new cycle in that part of your chart. So wherever that fell in your chart personally. And now whatever that area is, there's a sense of fullness to some part of that area or situation, and like really reveling in that. And you know, maybe it's something where it's like, I'm ready to let go. I'm ready to shed with the moon cycle. I'm ready to let it go, but also just being present with that. Just having gratitude, being in gratitude for like the growth that's been made.
Oh, she says, wow, I love this. Such an informative episode today. Thank you. Have a wonderful weekend. Thanks for joining us. And seriously, thank you for asking that question, because I'm over here like having this whole like epiphany about my own life.
Right. No, that's so special. That is so, so cool.
Okay, so the very last thing we'll do, and we'll do this quickly because I have kept you on for quite a while today, but the conversation
It's been so much fun.
been, yes. We pulled from an oracle deck, and I love how you brought up rose-colored glasses and the rosy nature of this moon, because we're going to pull from the Rose Oracle by Rebecca Campbell.
Perfect. I love it. Cool. I've never seen this deck.
It's brand new, actually. She just released it like a month ago or so. It's a really good one. So as I'm shuffling, I am going to bring up your Instagram, because people need to see all of this colorful, feminine, beautiful energy that you put out all the time. And are there any offerings or anything you have right now that you'd like to share?
Not right now, but I have a few things in the works that are exciting. Some educational things for people who are interested in learning more about astrology and magic. So yeah, give me a follow and just keep up on the posts, because I'll be sharing on my Instagram as
I feel like you have a nice mix of like celebrity and like fun memes, but also like informative posts. I appreciate that. There's something for everybody.
Thanks.
And also just like hilarious. The Euphoria content especially is just so good.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I definitely watched that entire I was up on all the Euphoria drama. Definitely.
It was so good. Okay. Let's see. Let's pull a card. What do we need to know? What else needs to come through for this Libra full moon? Ooh, okay. The card is Codes of the Seeds. The blueprint is within you. Take the next step. So let me pull it up in the guidebook. The picture is like this woman in like a seed capsule being planted or growing under the earth. Pretty cool. It's all like rose themed, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, here's what it says. Seeds come in knowing exactly what to do. Within them, they hold the potential of entire forests and rose gardens. Seeds have within them an intelligent timing that's connected with the intelligence of the cosmos. We are all seeds, future forests and gardens waiting to be born. We each hold the codes of a new humanity within us. Change is our natural state. Seeds must be buried in the darkness before they can bloom into the light. Seeds can't even begin to bloom without embracing the fertile void of the winter soil. They can't flower without outgrowing the constraints of the bud. They can't bear fruit without releasing their beauty to the earth and letting go of the very thing about them that captivates others. This card delivers the message that within you, you have all you need to create what you're destined to create, to move through everything that life delivers, and to navigate your way through any terrain. The blueprint has always been seated within. Trust that you have within you the codes for the most glorious rose garden waiting to bud and bloom. Trust those codes. Remember that blueprint. All you need to do now is take the next step. And tomorrow, take the next. If you continue taking baby steps each day, on a day not too far from today, you'll look back and discover the most breathtaking garden of roses all around you. And then fruit will follow. Today, just take the next step. You know what to do. The blueprint is encoded within you.
That's
love this
beautiful.
card.
I really, really love that.
So lovely for this Libra full moon too, just remembering that, you know, you have everything you need within you. We've talked a lot about relating to others and bouncing things off of others, but you already know what's in you. The key about relating to others is being able to see what's already within yourself. They're just a mirror for what's already within you.
Totally. Trusting in your own power and being able to collaborate with others once you have that self-trust. That's when I think things can really bloom and blossom. So I love that card. I love that.
It was so cute. Today. I love it. And just a confirmation that we're all on the right path. Everything is working out for us in divine timing. If there's anything that's been brewing up with a Pisces full moon, it's exactly how it's meant to be. And it's just igniting maybe a different part of your blueprint that you didn't see before. Lots of love in the comments too. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is seriously such a fun conversation with you. I love chatting about astrology, especially with people who are as passionate about it as I am.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Olivia. This was great. I really appreciated all of the questions that people asked. They asked such great things, and it was so fun to be in the house with so many Libra babes.
I know. Okay, there's one more thing I have to do, okay? This is not Libra related, but okay, but it's my dog's birthday today. And he was just scratching at the door, so I just wanted to bring him on. He's 6. This is Mo. And
happy birthday, Mo, Aries baby.
Yes, he's very Aries. He has a Leo moon. He's really proud and very manly.
He is a little lion. Look at that firecracker. He's so cute.
I know. He's a sweetie. But anyway, just had to bring him on, give him a little love. I feel like a proud mom, you know. I'm like, how did he already get so old?
Oh my, how old is he today?
He's 6. He's 6.
No way.
Yeah, he was just a little babe not that long ago. Oh, okay.
Happy birthday, sweet Mo.
Happy birthday, Mo. All right, he already got his puppuccino this morning. He has a play date with his girlfriend this afternoon. It's going to be a great day for him.
I'm so glad he is embarking on a happy full moon birthday weekend. How special.
Oh, apparently he already went to the park too. So, you know, he's just living his dreams.
Oh my God, how cute.
Anyway, just had to give Mo a little shout out. He's always in the background, always scratching at the door. So just so you all know, it's his birthday today. I'm a proud mom. And that's a great note to end on. So again, thank you so much for joining me. Seriously, had so much fun. Can't wait to keep connecting with you and seeing all of the beautiful things you're putting out in the world.
Oh, thank you for having me, Olivia. This was so much fun. And I hope everybody has a blessed and magical full moon weekend.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for showing up for our community today. Thank you for showing up for yourself. And I will see you right back here on Monday morning. But until then, stay curious. Thank you so much for joining us and aligning with the energy of the universe today. If you enjoyed this morning's episode of Transits Today, you can join our live astrology discussion every weekday morning right here wherever you're watching. And head to thespiritualjournalist.com to read your daily astrology forecast and browse the Spiritual Shop. The most fun way to help keep these forecasts free and support more content like this is to buy yourself a little something on our website. But if you're feeling extra generous, you can also buy me a coffee to fuel future live streams. Just tap the link in the description or head to buymeacoffee.com and search The Spiritual Journalist. And speaking of, you can also tune in to The Spiritual Journalist, our weekly live interview where we ask our guests questions about everything from crystals and manifestation to mental health and the environment. Those conversations stream live right here wherever you're watching now every Tuesday. I'm so grateful you found us here, and I can't wait for our next conversation.